What does it mean to accomplish something in your life? Especially as men, I'm now in my 60s and I was taking stock on what have I accomplished in my life. Most of us measure it the same way. We think in dollars, we think in platform sizes, we think in audience sizes, how many, how big was the crowd? We think in titles or how much I've built. But what if we're measuring that accomplishment with a wrong measure, with a wrong ruler? What happens if we're not measuring it right? The other day, well, a few weeks ago, I had dinner with my youngest son, and we were driving home after dinner, and he asked me, he says, "Dad, what is it that you actually want to accomplish with your life? What is it that you're striving for right now? What is your goal for now in your season of life, 60 plus years old?" And I thought about it and I said, honestly, I would like to do one like really great thing. I would like to accomplish one big thing, something remarkable, something measurable, something that my family can point to and say, Dad did that, Grandpa did that. And as we were driving, he kind of got quiet in the car, and then he said something that made me really pause in my thinking and take stock. And he said this to me. He said, "Dad, you haven't accomplished something that's measured in dollars. What you've done with your life doesn't mean, it hasn't been attached to massive amounts of money." He said, "But you've had impact. You've had impact on our lives. You've had impact on people across three continents: Africa, Europe, America." He went on to say, he says, "Dad, you've influenced us immeasurably, and you need to measure it like that." He said, "That is significant." He says, "Dad, I see it as significant. We see it as significant, and you need to see it that way too." You know, I immediately got quiet myself at that point in time. I didn't argue with him. I didn't try to justify myself. I actually took real stock and took it seriously. And a process of doing an audit at that point in time started within my own heart and mind. And I thought about, where have I not been valuing the right things, holding the right things precious? I look at my three sons against the odds they've had to face. Their lives, the environment wasn't easy. We lost everything in Cape Town, South Africa, and we had to create a whole new life, and they had to create a whole new life. There was no support for them. Against all odds, one son studied to become a mechanical engineer entirely on his own, no financial support, just him and his wife. And he had to push through, he had to work three jobs, and he is now an engineer. He's vice president of a department in a company. My youngest son, Jesse, he overcame cancer, got and went on to play rugby and get his obtain his business degree cum laude, and now he's working in a very responsible position in the healthcare industry. My other son in moved to New Zealand. He did so well in sales. He was invited to work for a company in New Zealand and is now on path to becoming a citizen there and doing extremely well, smashing um, sales all the time, just doing great. So if my influence helped them get there, and if that was all I've ever produced, is to see them becoming such incredible humans, fathers, dads, men, that would be enough. It should be enough. But it wasn't all. It would be more than enough for me now. Looking back at it, but it wasn't all. I lost everything, and we lost everything. My wife and I and my family, we lost everything in Cape Town, and we hit rock bottom. Lost our sense of purpose. Everything we had worked for 20, 30 years was gone. And friends became very few and far between. People don't like to be part of something that's broken. And I needed my friends, but there were few. There were few. Everybody was busy with their lives, and nobody journeyed with me through that. Nobody took my hand and just kept walking with me. One man in the world took the time, who was a leader. You understand, somebody who was a influential leader. Only one took the time to sit down for 2 hours and listen to my story. No interruptions, no, you could have done differently. Just listen to me. And it made a world of difference in me at that point in time. But in a time and place, in a season of my life where I needed friends, there was none. But in the midst of that, I made a decision. And that decision was, what nobody was to me, I'm going to be to others. Nobody wanted to walk me through that process. Nobody wanted to journey me to restoration. Nobody wanted to mentor me. And I said, I'm going to be that person to others that nobody was to me. We're not talking about crowds. We're not talking about platforms. I'm talking about the one. I always say, Jesus left the 99 for the one. It says that the good shepherd leaves the 99 for the one. But the 99 kind of never think that the one is important or significant. They can just, they're an outlier. It's their own fault. They just there. But until you become the one, when you become the one, then the one suddenly is very important. And I became that one. And suddenly I realized how important the one is. Not crowds, not platforms, the one. I've spoken in meetings to 4,000 people. I've been in millionaire club meetings. I've addressed very successful business people. I've spoken at conferences. But nothing compares to the leader that I helped get through a crisis in another country. I lived there with my family, walked through the crisis with him because he needed someone in his corner, someone to listen, someone to challenge, someone to hold him accountable, someone to just be there and help him envision a new future, even though he was in crisis. And you know what? He made it. He is successful now. One person. And that impact lasts when you can bring transformation and impact and influence to that one person. You used to think influence meant being heard, having a platform, making an impact you could measure. The more people you reached, the more influential you were. But midlife teaches you that real influence is often invisible. and far more powerful than anything you could build intentionally. You used, but midlife teaches you that real influence is often invisible. It's the conversation you have with one person that shifts their perspective. It's the example you set without trying to do it on purpose. It's the way you treat people when there's nothing to gain from it. Subtle influence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't need credit or applause. It just shows up in the way you live. And quietly, almost imperceptibly, it shapes the people around you. Your children are watching how you handle frustration. Your colleagues are noticing how you treat people with less power. Your friends are observing how you navigate difficulty. They're not listening to what you say about character. They're watching whether you actually live it or not. This kind of influence can't be manufactured. It can only be lived. And it's more powerful than anything you could intentionally construct because this is real, this is authentic. The fact is, you don't need a bigger platform. You need to live with integrity in the space you already occupy. That's influence that has lasting effect. So that's what I wrote, and I suppose that kind of inspired this me to share this with you. But real influence is often invisible. We need to realize that. It's not for the applause, it's not for the great credits and acknowledgement. Your children watching how you handle frustration, people, how you love your wife, your friends watching how you navigate crisis and difficulties. It can't be manufactured, it can only be embodied. And sometimes it's being the friend. It's being there when somebody's going through difficulty and not trying to preach to them, but just being there for them, listening to them and giving a perspective on things. I want to say to you, you don't need a bigger platform. You need to live with integrity in the space that you already have, the life that you already have, the relationships that you already have. The challenge to us today, you and me, is what have we been discounting in our own life? What have we counted as insignificant and devalued? Was it the son you showed up for, the friend you stayed with, the colleague you encouraged when nobody was watching? Stop measuring yourself by other people's expectations and what everybody thinks is the right ruler. It may be the wrong ruler, the wrong measure. The impact you can't see is often the impact that has the most effect and lasts the longest. If you've ever been the one with nobody in your corner, I want you to know is I'm Coach Sean in your corner, because that's why I call this channel that, because I thought nobody was in my corner and I want to be in yours. So until next time, this is Sean.